Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week's top 10 list is the top 10 most expensive notes in my collection. Now, when I say most expensive notes, I'm talking about their value based on condition, of course. And I want to thank One Roll at a Time for suggesting this list to me. One Roll at a Time. Check out his channel if you haven't done so already. He does some really interesting coin roll hunts. Please check him out. Thank you for the suggestion, and let's take a look. Now, I know I said top 10. I've got One Roll at a Time's name up here. I know I said top 10, but I could not narrow it down to 10 because when I saw the notes that were going to be excluded, I had to think twice. So you're going to get 5 bonus notes as well. So here are the top 15 most expensive notes in my collection. Number 15. We're going to go with the very first note ever produced by the federal government. This is an 1862 $5 legal tender. When the federal government decided to print notes, the first note they started with was the $5 bill because we already had $1 silver coins. Silver dollars were very much popular at the time. So the first paper denomination they figured, was the $5 bill. This is a $5 bill from 1862. You can see the condition isn't the greatest, but for being one of the first bills ever produced by our country, I had to get my hands on one. This particular one's worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $400. Number 14. I went with a 1907 wood chopper. My 1907 wood chopper is a legal tender note or a United States note, however you'd like to call it. It has both on there. United States note, legal tender for $5. Wood chopper is just a very classic image right here. You've got the dog, the wood chopper, his axe, his gun, his wife, his baby. Just a cool note all around. If you get one in decent condition, they can start getting a little bit expensive. One of the things you want to look for is what's called the public error. This one doesn't have it, but you can see the word public here. Sometimes the U doesn't get printed correctly, and it looks like PCB instead of PUB. So that's the public error that they're talking about. This one doesn't have it. Still a 1907 legal tender. This particular note goes for about $425. Number 13. Now we get to some of the notes I couldn't believe were going to be in the top 10. Number 13, I've got my 1899 Chief note. $5 silver certificate from 1899. My Chief running antelope note. This is definitely an iconic image. Mine's actually in pretty good shape except for the little stain here. Take a look at the back. Stain does go all the way through. Still a decent note. Not a whole lot of heavy creases or folds, not a whole lot of dirt on this bill. Just an all-around good note to have, especially being such an iconic image. The 1899 $5 silver certificate. The Chief note goes for, this one's worth about $475, I'd say. All right. Number 12. Once again, another note I was surprised didn't make the top 10. This particular one is the 1918 $2 Federal Reserve banknote. This just happens to be from Minneapolis, so it's an I note. The $2 Federal Reserve banknote, also known as the Battleship. Battleship note features the USS New York on the back. That's a World War I battleship. World War I battleship on the back of the note. Just an incredible image. It's hard to believe we had something like that on our currency. Such a cool note. You can tell on the picture there's even people standing up front. Just really cool image of the battleship on there. The 1918 $2 Federal Reserve battleship note. This particular note goes for about $500 in this condition. And number 11, the last note from the honorable mention list, is my 1880 $10 legal tender. You can see on the top, this note is a legal tender for $10. Red seal, of course, indicates legal tender. The United States note on the bottom. The $10 note, take a look at the back real quick on this one. What makes this so special is the eagle that is on the bottom there. A very iconic picture of an eagle. First time and only time they used that particular picture of an eagle. Why is that? Because if you take it and flip it around, that eagle becomes a donkey. This is known as the jackass note. You can see its eye, you can see its white snout, you can see its ear sticking up, you can see its mane right here. There's the ear, there's the eye, there's the white snout. That is the donkey, the jackass note. The 1880 $10 jackass note. This particular note, just a fun note to have when you look at what's on there. Don't even know if that was intentional, but this goes for around $525. So those are my top 5 honorable mentions. So now let's get into the actual top 10 notes. Number 10. I went with, well, I didn't go with, the book went with the 1882, series of 1882 national currency or national bank note from Decatur, National Bank of Decatur, Illinois. This is a $20 bill. It is known as a brownback. It's from the second series, second charter of national bank currencies. The second series is known for having the brown back, the brown inking on the back. The giant number in the center here is the charter number for the particular bank. That 4920 appears on the back, it appears on the front. You've got it in numerous locations on this bill as well. It's the Battle of Lexington is what's portrayed right there. The first, or I shouldn't say the first national, the National Bank of Decatur, Illinois. When it comes to national banknotes, not only does the charter have a lot to do with it, but the particular city, depending on how large or how small the city is. Generally, how far west the city is would also have something to do with price. So it is extremely difficult to narrow down the exact price on individual notes because there's so many different variables. However, this particular one, the best I can figure, the brown back here is worth roughly $575. That's number 10 on my list. Number 9, going with the 1896 silver certificate, $1 silver certificate from the educational series. This one grades out at 25. Now, the nice part about having graded notes is there is no arguing. It's a 25. You can try to negotiate the price from there, but as far as putting a value on it, well, we've got a number. This one was graded by PMG. One of the other things that's good about having graded currency is you know it's real. The $1 silver certificate from 1896, the educational note, features Martha Washington and George Washington on the back. And this particular note in that particular grade is going to price out at roughly $600. That's number 9. Number 8. Number 8 would be my 1934 $500 bill. $500 bill from 1934. You can see this one graded out as a 30. It does have the light green seal, otherwise known as the lime seal. The light green also is in the serial numbers as well. $500 bill, of course, was pulled from circulation starting in 1969, so every day these are getting tougher and tougher to find. This particular one was graded, so once again, fairly easy to figure out the value on this one. At a 30, this one is worth roughly $1,100. So yeah, how do you turn 500 into 1,100? Just like that. Next up, number 7. Number 7 is from 1901. Right there, series of 1901. It is my $10 legal tender known as the Bison Note. The Bison Note also features Lewis and Clark on there. Great explorers, Lewis and Clark. The Bison Note, not the buffalo. This is not a buffalo. There are no buffalo in North America. That's the North American bison. North American bison note. The bison on the back has these huge areas of white space. Yeah, there's a little bit of dirt, a little bit of schmutz and stuff there, but it is an expensive note. One of the more popular notes because you're talking about having a bison as the centerpiece on there. The 1901 bison note. You're looking at roughly $1,325 for one of these. 10987. Number 6. Number 6 from 1862 $1 legal tender. This was the very first $1 note ever produced by our government. 1862 legal tender. This one, of course, grades out at 35, and it does have the EPQ designation, which would be exquisite paper quality, I believe is what it is. So that's referring to the quality of the paper on there. The $1 1862 note, you can see on the back, exceptional paper quality, that's what it is there. Yeah, just a really impressive note, a legal tender, and you can see how detailed all those swirls are in there, making this extremely difficult to counterfeit back in 1862 at the time. The first $1 bill ever produced, graded at 35. This particular note, you're looking at about $1,350. Now we get to the top five. Top five note, number 5. My $10,000 gold certificate. $10,000 gold certificate. This, of course, was redeemed, so it is no longer worth $10,000. But at one point it was. You can see that it has the holes punched saying that it has been redeemed. The $10,000 gold certificate, I've told you guys the story in the past, how this was saved from a fire. Mine actually has the burn damage on it and smoke damage. If I'm going to get one of these, I wanted one that showed a little bit of damage like that. It does have the harder crease here, but aside from the actual damage from the fire, it is a pretty sweet note to have. This particular note, probably in the neighborhood of $1,500. Yes, even with the corner missing like that, that's what gives this particular note that kind of character. Number 4. Number 4 on my list, back to 1896. This is the 1896 $5 silver certificate, also part of that educational series. This was the troublemaker note, the note that caused the entire series to get yanked because of the imagery, of course, on the center. I've done other videos on that. You can check that out and hear the whole story. The $5 silver certificate from 1896. That's the front. That's the back, featuring Grant and Sheridan, of course. Taking a look at this note. One of the iconic notes anybody should have in their collection if you can swing it. This one in this condition, and that's the thing, condition, about $1,500 in this particular condition, maybe a hair more. Number 3 on the list. Number 3, also from the educational series. This is my $2 1896 silver certificate. This one was graded at 25. The condition is actually much better than 25. However, somebody had trimmed this note by about a 1/16 of an inch. I guess it had a ding corner and they were trying to get away with something. So that brought the grade down to 25. You can see it does list minor repairs there. Still, having an 1896 silver certificate graded at 25, the grading once again means that the bill is definitely authentic. That's the best part about having a bill graded. You know it's the real thing. $2 educational note in a 25. You're looking at close to $2,000 for this particular note. Number 2 on this list is, this is a $1,000 bill from 1934. 1934, a $1,000 bill. These are getting really tough to find because people who have them don't want to get rid of them. They were recalled as of 1969, so it's harder and harder to get a hold of these. Really sweet note to have. Take a look at the back real quick. Back of this note, and you can see it's got a little bit of ink on the back there, a little bit of rust marks on there. I've had this particular note for a while. The $1,000 bill, just an iconic note to have. Whenever you start talking about large denomination currencies, this is one that comes to mind. This particular one in this condition is probably worth between $2,000 and $2,200, somewhere around there. That's what you're going to see them going for. And finally, number 1 on my list, from the national currency list. This is the very first charter. The very first charter of national currency started in 1863, if I recall. This particular one is from 1865. It is the Lazy Deuce. $2 Lazy Deuce national currency. This particular one is from Providence, Rhode Island. This bill is graded, so I know it's the real deal. And once again, having a note graded, not only do you know it's real, but it makes it that much easier to check out as far as what the value is. The 1860, well, I'm calling this 1865 because I checked the charter and that's when it was released. 1865 $2 Lazy Deuce. Initially books out at $1,950, but because this one is from Providence, Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island didn't produce very many of these notes at all. And because of that, notes from Providence do have a little bit of a premium on them. That's going to bring this note somewhere between $2,200 and $2,300. So that is the number 1 note, most expensive individual note I have in my collection. Worth about $2,300 or so. Providence, Rhode Island, $2 Lazy Deuce from 1865. And that's my top 10/15 notes in my collection. Thank you once again, one roll at a time, for making the suggestion. I'm very proud to be able to pull these notes out and show them and share them with everybody. There's not really agreeing with the list. That's kind of what they're worth. So if you like what you see and learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you have a suggestion for a list, go ahead and leave that in the comments as well. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next week.